Hello and welcome to We Random, episode 63. We are recording on Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. B, we made it to the future. Congratulations. I didn't think I was going to make it. Anyway, this is a random podcast. We talk about random stuff, and we're going to start with a random joke. B, are you cool? Do you want to hear, you know what? I've got a joke about paper. Do you want to hear a joke about paper?
Sure.
Actually, never mind. It's terrible. You know, it's terrible. Exactly. We'll be back right after this.
Almost Qualified Productions.
Let's get crazy!
Experts don't have this much fun.
Welcome to We Random, episode 63. I'm Brian. That over there is Christopher. Say hello and welcome back to our wonderful people in 2022, Christopher.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
As you all know, for you loyal listeners, welcome back. If you found us anew in 2022, welcome. You are here on We Random. What we do here is we spin our wheel of doom. We've loaded it with some topics that we want to talk about. That wheel's going to spin, and then we're going to try really, really hard to get our friend Sconzi over there mad online. If he doesn't get mad online, this show's going to be like 45 minutes. If he gets mad online, it might push like an hour 10. But stick with us, because we're going to have fun today. So, how did you enjoy your break from the podcast and streaming, Sconzi? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Clearly I needed the break because it felt good, but also I didn't need the break because I realized I didn't set up any of the stuff that I needed to set up on YouTube before I hit the start button. So, some good, some bad.
It happens. So, any words of wisdom, fun facts, or other artifacts of hope for our people before we jump right into this loaded wheel today?
I don't have Mr. Rhythm on my soundboard, so no. I'd say no, I don't.
All right, so let's get her spinning and see what we come up with.
All right. Well, my thing didn't load the way it was supposed to, and it still isn't.
Well, 2022.
Yeah, let's try again. Let's try it this way. Oh, there it is. We're spinning. We're going.
See it. We're going.
Hey. All right, we're going to start with nothing. Oh, there it is. Becky Hammon. Who's Becky Hammon, and why are we talking about her?
So we've got the one good story on our wheel today.
Get it out of the way quick.
For those of you who want to hear good stories, we've got one. And this is debatably good, but we'll get to that. So, Becky Hammon has been named the head coach of the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces, becoming allegedly the highest paid WNBA coach. Becky Hammon, who is currently an assistant coach with the NBA San Antonio Spurs, will remain in that capacity through the end of the 2021-2022 season. After previously interviewing with several NBA teams for head coaching jobs, Hammond said it was the approach of the Aces owner and team president that factored into her decision to return to the WNBA, despite previously not having any intentions to leave the NBA. So, basically, what happened here is Becky Hammon, there were a lot of people over the past couple years who were saying that she should be qualified for an NBA head coaching job. But from what it sounds like, when she was going for these interviews, these general managers and the team owners were like, well, you've only been an assistant coach in one place and you don't have head coaching experience, so we're not going to hire you. And then these WNBA folks are like, dude, you're like a head coach right now. We totally want you. So she's going back to the WNBA, which is where she played for, I think it was like 16 seasons and was one of the best players in the league. So this is like really cool on one hand, but it also kind of frustrates me that the NBA is like this. But I think almost all professional sports are like this. Like, you're looking at the Jaguars job right now in the NFL, and they're like trotting out Jim Caldwell. And I'm like, hasn't Jim Caldwell had like 4 jobs?
I can, initially my thought was to get angry at this, but I think this makes perfect sense because all NBA coaches that get hired all have head coaching experience, right? All of them, every single one. No, they don't. That's bullshit. And fuck all of them for doing this. There we go. I made it through my first sentence and I still swore. No, this pisses me off. This is not a good story in my mind. This bothers me a lot. So, like, I understand getting head coaching experience is great. Like 100%. I don't slight her for that at all. It's going to give her experience from a different perspective, right? But to think that she needed to go to the WNBA just to possibly get a chance in the NBA, I think is garbage. And I absolutely guarantee that teams are going to use this against her because they're going to say, well, you've been away from the NBA game too long. You've got WNBA experience. You don't have that NBA experience. It's exactly what's going to happen. Like the fact that they used you don't have head coaching experience against her was garbage to begin with. Now they're going to use this against her too. Like, she should have gotten a chance in the NBA. She should have. And the fact that she didn't is garbage. So good for her. I'm glad she got a head coaching gig. I'm glad that she's, going to get a chance to, to be a head coach, get that experience. That's great. But in the end, in my mind, this is not a happy story. This is an irritating story.
I mean, it is, and that's why I kind of tried to take both approaches to it, right? Because returning to the WNBA and being the highest paid head coach, like I think that's good, right? Like they're seeing value in her skills and her potential abilities, but it is that frustrating part that the NBA is just doing the whole, oh, well, now there's a job available, we got to call Doc Rivers again, or
right. Yeah.
There's a job available and we got to call, like, I don't even remember, like, Jeff Van Gundy or Stan Van Gundy or, like, I don't even know, Jason Kidd. And I'm like, guys, really? Like, but if we look at professional sports, the main sport that isn't like this, but it even still is baseball, right? Because baseball's like, sure, we're going to hire this young guy, but then Dusty Baker at like 75 million years old has a job still.
Yeah, it's one thing, like even Dusty Baker, I can kind of understand because Dusty Baker had success, right? We talked about Jim Caldwell. The fucking guy was a loser. Like he just lost. And don't get me wrong, he was in Detroit and everybody loses in Detroit, but he kept losing. Why do you like the fact that people would hire a losing person, a loser who lost as a head coach, instead of somebody who doesn't have experience but could be a great fit? It blows my mind. It blows my mind.
I mean, and again, we're getting real sidetracked, but hello, we random. This is what we do on this podcast. If we look at the NFL, like a lot of the coaches for some of the best teams, like if you take out like Bruce Arians and Andy Reid, right? They're these younger, newer style coaches. You've got Matt LaFleur and Zach Taylor and Sean McVay and like those guys who are more of like the younger, new breed. And then you got the Jaguars out here like, hey, it's Urban Meyer. Nope, didn't work. And then you've got, their search. They're like, well, we're going to maybe call Eric Bieniemy, but we really think we want to call like, I don't even, like, there was a name that I heard and I've like blacked out because I'm like, this dude has had like 3 head coaching jobs and gone like a combined 7 and 37.
Yeah, it's insane. Historical Gamer wants to fact check me that Jim Caldwell went 36 and 28. Congratulations. You're still a fucking loser. Who wants him as a head coach? I don't want him as a head coach.
Jim Caldwell had a winning record with the Lions?
He did.
What?
Apparently he did, yeah. He even made the playoffs twice. So, good for him.
Ooh.
Good for him.
Well,
All right, we're spinning the wheel.
He'll have fun with Trevor Lawrence next year, I guess.
Ugh, like, talk about losers. Anyway, let's go on to GSAs. What is a GSA?
Man.
And why are we talking about this?
So, Sconzi had made it a point to not swear on the podcast this year.
Yeah, that's out the window. That's gone.
Approximately, 8 minutes into the podcast, it's done because we are going to talk about 2 California teachers and the closed door discussion that they had at a teachers conference on how to start gay straight student alliances in conservative school districts.
Wait, for the record, I also want to call out that you said that nobody would watch our podcast if I stop swearing. So you're kind of putting the pressure on me here. Okay, go on.
True. It's true. So basically, the root of the story here is that there is a conference in California for LGBTQ plus issues in education, and these two teachers went to this conference and were discussing how to start gay-straight alliances in schools, especially in conservative school districts. So they gave this presentation, they asked people not to record it, somebody recorded it anyway, and now they are facing threats and fighting to keep their jobs after details of the talk were leaked to a transphobic author who wrote a article that was called How Activist Teachers Recruit Kids. So the article went viral on conservative social media, and 4 days after the article was published, there were readers who complained to the school district, at which point the district placed the teachers on administrative leave, and they suspended the Gay-Straight Alliance. Now, if you want to know the details of what happened, included in the audio were the two teachers describing how they didn't keep the names of their attendees to help protect the children's identities from potentially disapproving and anti-LGBTQ parents. The teachers also discussed calling the program the Equity Club or the UBU Club to help avoid any stigma that a more explicitly LGBTQ name might attract. Now, this is one that people are really up in arms about, and I would, like to get your opinion, Skanzi. It was also discussed how the teachers used their abilities to monitor student web searches in order to invite students who might have questions about their gender or sexual identity. Now, for the record, the teachers say that their principal knew about all of this, and the principal even participated in some of the meetings. Other good context before we start yelling. California law doesn't prevent teachers from approaching students about joining gay-straight alliances, and the law allows teachers to not discuss a student's identity with the parents without the child's permission. So, do you want to yell first, Skanzi, or do you want me to yell first?
No, I want you to go ahead. Tell us what you got.
So, when I read this article, and I read about the backlash, and I read about what happened, the immediate thought that came to my brain is, isn't exactly what is happening here proving these teachers' entire fucking point? Like, I feel like this is proving their entire point as to why they're doing what they're doing. Because people are like, oh, you gotta tell me if my child has, these thoughts and tendencies. Like, what? Really? Like, they're trying to do something good for children, and people are like blowing it way out of proportion. And like, I want to read you this, and I skipped this before, but the literal name of this author's book was Irreversible Damage: The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. Like, this is like, people always talk about, oh, there's so much propaganda by people here. Like, is this not the opposite side of propaganda? And no one is taking offense to the fact that these children have opted into this. No one has made them do it. They're doing it because it makes them feel good about themselves. And then somebody's like, well, you can't feel good about yourselves because I don't want you to do this. Isn't this the opposite of what we want for our children?
Well, it depends who we are, because the people who are throwing a fit about this, that's exactly what they want their children to do, is exactly what they want, exactly what they believe. It's indoctrination, right? That's what it's all about. I want to call out what the conference was all about. So this conference where they gave this speech, there's three. The sessions focus on these three core areas: supporting and centering the most marginalized, healing, resilience, and joy, and queer futures. So why the fuck would somebody who comes to a conference that is focusing on these situations record these meetings and then give it to this jackhole? Like, this, it's clearly, it's nothing but an underhanded approach at trying to sabotage this, right? That's exactly what it is. Which also takes me to my next point, which kind of goes above and beyond this specific incident. But like, they took this to the school board, and the school board said, oh yeah, we need to stop this. We can't have this happening anymore. And this is a big problem, and I'm going to make this very political, but this is a big problem that we're seeing now, especially from these assholes on the right who want to shut down anything that has anything to do with equality and understanding and, being a good person is they're attacking things at a local level like that, and people are just caving left and right. And that's going to be a problem. Like, I'm sorry, but we're going to be living in this dystopia era in the future where shit's going to get really ugly. It's just the way it is, because these crazy assholes, they come together quicker and better and stronger, and they fight, and they're fucking lunatics, and people don't want to deal with them, and so they just fall over and say, yeah, do whatever you want. We're going to have a very fucking bleak future. But if we go back to what this specific thing is, and to your point, like, I understand it, right? Like, if the problem is these people are so goddamned close-minded that they're insistent that if somebody's gay, it's the whole nature versus nurture, right? They don't understand that. And they assume that you can turn somebody gay because you talk about it. Just like you can turn somebody not gay if you take them to, see Pastor Bill, who's probably going to diddle them anyway, so let's not even go there. And they can pray the gay out of them, right? Or whatever the fuck it is. And this is what these people believe. And like, I'm perfectly fine, and I understand that parents need to be able to raise their children. That's their job. That's their responsibility. And that's their right. It's their child. And I think that you also have to look at the fact that how many of these young gay or queer or whatever, wherever you are in that spectrum of the LGBTQ scale that they may be on, how many of these kids are living miserable, horrible, disgusting lives because they can't be who they are? How many of these kids don't live a life because they kill themselves because their parents are telling them that they're horrible, disgusting people and they can't be who they are? Like, there's a lot of shit that's going on here. This is a lot more than a super deep 5-minute conversation that we can have in a podcast. And I get it. There's a lot of gray area there. I get that. Clearly, I am very passionate, and I come from this from a very specific perspective. And I think that we have to allow children the ability to be free and to think for themselves and teach them to think for themselves. And that's another part of this whole thing, because how much have we seen? How many times have we talked about things on this podcast where specific groups of individuals, and let's be honest, it's a fucking right, who are pushing their agenda to try to indoctrinate people. There was that thing in Florida where they wanted to pass a law, and maybe they went around and actually did it, I don't remember, where they wanted to check on colleges and make sure that they're not indoctrinating people to the left, right? We're going to check all of their curriculum and blah, 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 blah. With the critical race theory, we're trying to have that. We can't have that going on, even though that shit doesn't even happen. To your point, Wiggum, having a gay child doesn't mean you fail. First of all, there's nothing wrong with having a gay child, but it's because these people don't even understand what gay is. They just freak the fuck out. It's just, the point is, there's so much of this fucking indoctrination. We want to create little soldiers that do and say and act exactly as we want them to be, however we want them to be, and that's it. And that's not the world we should be living in. We should be living in a world where people can learn and develop who they are and how they are in their own way of thinking. And we need to give them access to the ability to learn. And that's just not the world that we're living in. And I got to quit talking because I've been talking for like 12 and a half minutes now. I went all over the place. Sorry about that, B. But this. No,
it's fine.
This touches on so many areas that I'm so passionate about and so pissed about.
It does. And, I had a conversation with a friend over the weekend, and I was mentioning, systemic things. And he's like, well, what do you mean when you say systems? And I was like, think about this. When you go to a store, there are boys' toys and there are girls' toys. Why can't a kid just play with whatever toy they want, right? Like, this is part of the systems piece that we were talking about, because we were getting into a real, big picture conversation about STEM education and why certain people choose certain routes, and I'm like, this is all part of the bigger system, and this issue here that we're talking about is also part of that bigger system, because there are certain individuals who don't see or don't want it to be that individuals can be something else inside that is not what their physical body shows the world.
Well, we tell little Bobby to go play with his Legos and his erector set and his Lincoln Logs, and we tell little Susie, don't you dare fucking touch those Legos. You go play with the Barbie and your kitchen set. And then we wonder why 20 years later Bobby's an engineer and Susie is, a home ec teacher or something, right? Like
Right.
we breed this into them. We educate them, we teach them, and we put them in these little boxes. And of course, if that's the way that they're raised, that's the way they're going to go. And it's ridiculous. Again, why can't Bobby play with the fucking Barbie if he wants to? Why can't Susie play with the Legos and create the Death Star? They absolutely can. Just let them play with what they want to play with. Let them learn. Like open the world to them.
Right.
That's the thing.
Well, like the example that my friend gave was they bought like these building blocks for their son, and there was like a blue package and there was a pink package, and the pink package was cheaper. So he's like, I'm going to buy the pink package because
Yeah.
it's cheaper. And I'm like, but see, this is the thing. It's like, this is exactly what I'm talking about is we have this system where these blocks over here are for boys and these blocks over here are for girls, right? Like,
Yeah.
why can't blocks just be for everyone who wants to play with some blocks?
Yeah. No, I agree. If Little Wiggs comes home one day and says, hey, I want to be a ballerina, I hope that old man Wiggum says, fuck yeah, let's sign you up for ballet class, right? Who the fuck cares? I pulled Little Wig in because, oh, look, if my child becomes me, I have failed in my eyes. If my child becomes his own person, like a ballerina, with the best qualities of people he has been around and is true to himself, then I have succeeded. I agree. I think that's it. Like, I'm a firm believer, and I can say this, obviously with a grain of salt. I don't have any kids, but I feel I'm a part of a lot of people's extended families and group of community, we'll say. Like, you need to give kids the opportunity to find what it is that they love and what they enjoy. Don't push them down a certain thing. Now, that maybe there's something maybe old man Wiggum loves ballet, and so maybe he's going to introduce Little Wiggs to ballet as opposed to letting him stumble onto it himself. That's great. But it doesn't mean you say, you know what, you really like this. I know you like, come on, let's go to the ballet again for the 4th time this week. Like, you don't shove it down their throat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think and to wrap this topic and spin, it feels like we're taking away people's ability to explore, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's like, you must be this and only this because I said so.
I think the thing, going back to our main topic, and by the way, it sounds like Historical Gamer secretly wanted to be a ballerina his whole life, or a ballador, or whatever a male ballerina is. I don't know. Like, I understand the situation. I understand people's point of view, their biased, homophobic point of view, that they want to have control over how their kids raised and the information that they get. I understand that. And there's not a very easy way to say this, so I'm just gonna say it in the Sconzi way of saying it. But if you're a bigoted asshole, your kids have to be able to get other points of view. So I understand where they're coming from, but yeah.
All right, let's spin her.
All right, we're spinning. It's okay,
All right,
it's okay,
everyone,
gamer. I'm not
let's take a
judging you. You
breath.
could be a ballerina.
We're going to take a breath. And
And then we're gonna get mad about
else.
Antonio Brown.
Oh, well, I'm not going to get mad about Antonio Brown. You might, but I'm not going to. So, not friend of the show, Antonio Brown, may have become the second NFL mid-game retirement following the footsteps of cornerback Vontae Davis, who retired at halftime of a game in 2018. After refusing to re-enter the Buccaneers game against the Jets, Brown stripped down to his pants and left the field. The Buccaneers later announced that Brown would no longer be a member of the team. So this is one of those situations where we have no idea what the truth is. So we are out here speculating just as you are.
We'll make up our own truth.
But what we have been told are 2 stories. Story number 1 is by the Buccaneers, who they said that they asked Brown to re-enter the game. He refused to re-enter the game. They asked him again to re-enter the game. He continued to refuse. They told him, well, if you're not going to re-enter the game, you can leave. At which point, he stripped down and left, even though teammates were trying to talk him into not leaving. Now, Brown's side of the story, he says that his foot and ankle were too hurt for him to go back into the game, and that the team did not understand this. We've also heard a narrative from Pat McAfee that says Brown was disgruntled about the lack of support that he received after getting a 3-game suspension for, providing the league a fake vaccination card. So, while we don't know anything, Sconzi, want to get mad? Do we not want to get mad? Do we want to just kind of roll our eyes and move on?
I'm more of a roll my eyes. Like, I'm not pissed about this. I might be pissed if I was a Bucks fan. The whole thing is just stupid. Like, it's fucking Antonio Brown, man. Like, everybody knew this shit was gonna happen. He's a fucking nutcase. And I don't care why he's a nutcase. He's a fucking nutcase, right? Like, people are saying it's a CTE issue, that he took a big hit to the head a couple of years ago and he hasn't been the same since. Maybe it's, some sort of mental health issue that he's having. Regardless, the point is, this guy has had repeated situations where he's done weird shit like this, right? Now, some of the shit wasn't just weird. Some of it could have been criminal. So that's a different situation altogether. Like, the guy needs to get some sort of help, right? Because he's got all sorts of issues. I support anybody that needs mental health assistance, and I believe that he does, and I support him for that. On the flip side, he kind of loses a little bit of my support because the guy's worth multi-millions of dollars. He's got all the money in the world. He has every opportunity to get help. I mean, fuck, he could get help. Like, he could get it paid for by any one of these teams that want him to play for him. Like, you have access to this and you're not doing it. So you kind of lose some of my support there if you're not going to get the help that you actually need. The way that he did this is just typical, like, showboating. It's all about me bullshit. And it kind of disgusts me. It's kind of stupid. It's irritating, but in the end, he's not worth me spending my life thinking about. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, the memes are really what this is all about, right? Like, where you see the memes where it's like, if fuck this job were a picture.
Another one, I don't know if I sent it to you. He's holding a giant vaccination card.
Yeah. You can take this job and shove it, or like all of those other memes, right? But I mean, this is just like, it's sad in some ways because he was such a great player for such a long time, and then he just kind of turned into a little bit of a kind of, I don't know what you want to say about
turned into
him,
something.
but like that somebody posted and they were like, the thing that we've learned here is that Mike Tomlin is a saint for putting up with this dude for 9 years.
Well, that's true. That's true. But here, to take it from it to a non-comical side, is we also need to call out how much this is enabled by the NFL and by the teams in the NFL. Because if you think that Antonio Brown's not going to play for another team, you're probably wrong. Because there's somebody that'll sign him because he can catch a football and he runs fast. Somebody will take a chance on him. They're like, yeah, what the hell? We'll give you $1 million. You come in and hopefully we can get 6 games out of you. And then you'll, freak out and leave in halftime and we'll be done with you. Like, they're enabling this to happen because and I obviously don't know all the details of what these contract stipulations are. You have to get help. You have to do this. You have to do whatever. But he just keeps coming back. And people just keep bringing him back, right? It's just like if you got that relative who's a drug addict and you continue to bail them out of jail, or you continue to give them money, or whatever the case may be. If you're not saying no, we're not doing this anymore, they're just going to keep doing it, and that's what is happening. The NFL just keeps enabling it, and that's not just the NFL. It's not just the 3 or 4 teams that he's played for besides Pittsburgh, but it's all sports will do this. They'll all enable this because it comes down to who's winning and who can help us win. It's a money thing, just like everything else. It's all about fucking money.
All about the money.
Yeah, fucking money. Are we done with Antonio Brown?
Sure are. At least until he
good.
shows up on the Packers next year.
I'm in this group chat with some guys from work. It's 3 Bears fans? No, 3 Packer fans, 2 Bears fans. And one of the memes that got posted is Chicago Bears signed Antonio Brown to 5 years, $160 million contract or some shit. Like, nice. If anybody was going to do that, probably be the Chicago Bears. Anyway, let's talk about the MTG. What is the MTG? Well, is that like a gun or a tank or something?
No, That's Lauren Boebert who loves the guns.
Oh,
but
that's true.
this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has joined our friend of the show, Donald Trump, on the Twitter banned list. So, Twitter has permanently suspended the personal account of Marjorie Taylor Greene after the company said she had violated the COVID misinformation policies not one time, not two times, not three times, or even four times. 5. Now this is not 6 people, but it's 5 times that she violated the COVID policies, and she was now removed from Twitter. Now, what really bothers me about this is, how does it take Twitter 5 times for you to say something against policy for them to go, okay, we're finally going to remove you? Like, how have, like, you know, Eggman 3000, that's how Eggman 3000 is still out there, because Eggman 3000's out there sending stuff every day that doesn't get flagged, that doesn't get that person's account suspended, right? Because every comment about COVID, he's like, COVID's not as bad as the sniffles, you know, like.
It's just the flu, man. It's just the flu. That's what Gamer told us. This isn't black and white. And that's the thing, is like, it's very easy to say this woman is a fucking nut job, and she's nothing but a conspiracy theorist, and you know, she spreads bogus fucking news. Like, you could just say this forever and it's all true. Like, all of that is accurate, and it's all what is happening. So from that angle, it's very easy to say, yeah, she shouldn't be around. But on the flip side, I do understand the point of, you know, this is a platform. It's a platform that people are using to communicate and to share information. And in a way, the conversation that continues to happen is, what responsibility does Twitter have, or Facebook, or any of these social media apps, to kind of curate and to monitor and, you know, keep tabs on this stuff, right? It's like there's certain rules and certain regulations and certain laws as to what can or cannot be said on like news broadcasts or in the newspaper, and a lot of that isn't the same as what social media is held to. And so there's a gray area there, right? Like, they're trying to do the best they can. Could they do better? I'm going to say yes, they absolutely could, because you could always do better, right? Like, they're not perfect. I mean, obviously the bigger names are going to get caught before Eggman 3000 does, because, you know, his 4 followers isn't going to get him any real pub space, right? But on the flip side is, when you've got these people who have hundreds of thousands, millions of followers out there who are reading this, all of a sudden, I think that individual has a responsibility to make sure that the information that they're sharing, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or even on the evening news, you know, speaking to Ted Koppel or whoever the hell does the news anymore, I don't even know. You need to make sure that there's legitimacy to what you're saying, right? Like, you would think that should be a thing. So yeah, you know what? If you're out there and you are purposely spouting misinformation in a way that is dangerous and could be harming people, you know what? You should get censored. You shouldn't be able to do that, and I'm okay with that.
Well, and she still has her, you know, official account. This was her personal account that was banned. But again, this is it's, you know, we've talked before about the challenges Twitter has. So,
well, yeah, but again, it's you have to hold yourself accountable. And let's be honest, a lot of these people, left and right, I mean, it doesn't matter which side you're on. There's a lot of people that don't hold themselves accountable. They just spout off. They say whatever the hell they want to say. Like, we do that here, but there's 3 people watching right now. Like, that's a little bit different than the, you know, millions of people that are following her, right? And when you've got that big of an audience, you really have to watch what you're saying and how you're saying it. And the problem is this is somebody who built her entire political career on conspiracy theories, on bullshit, on garbage. And so she's going to keep spouting garbage, because that's what got her where she was. You know what I mean?
Yep. All right. So garbage in, garbage out. Now, where are we at? Do we want to spin? Do we want to call a flag for a specific topic or two?
Where are we at? We're at 35 minutes. We can do another one, I think.
Do we want to spin for that one, or do we want to select it?
Well, I already spun, so let's go with
Come on, give me something good.
Aaron Rodgers. And apparently he likes science.
Of all the topics left, this is probably the one I was looking least forward to talking about. So, 2 months after Aaron Rodgers drew a firestorm over his comments on Pat McAfee's show related to his decision to be immunized, the Green Bay Packers quarterback has gone back to railing on COVID. This time, Rodgers sounded off on the NFL's protocols, saying that the league has created a two-class system of the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, even including facts from pal Joe Rogan and a doctor who spread misinformation about the pandemic. Rodgers, to his credit, also called science propaganda, saying that if it can't be questioned, it's propaganda. So I don't even want to talk about this because, basically, I feel like he just watched a bunch of Fox News while he was falling asleep, and everything they said just went into his brain, and then he woke up regurgitating it.
Yeah. So this is the main point that I wanted to make, which is the whole reason why I put this one on here.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers says that if you can't question science, it's propaganda, right? Here's the thing, Mr. Rodgers. Science is questioned all the damn time. That's what science is. You come up with a hypothesis and you test it and you find out what the results are. And then you know what you do with those results? You fucking come up with another hypothesis and you question it again. That's what it is. Thank you, gamer. That's what science is. They always question it. But here's the rub. Here's the rub. It's not questioned by Aaron Rodgers. It's questioned by fucking scientists. So here, let me make a comparison. Every Monday morning or Tuesday morning, if they play a Monday night game, I want Aaron Rodgers to sit down in that press room with a whole bunch of people like me and you and Historical Gamer. Maybe not Gamer. He's too smart. In fact, you're probably too smart too. People like me, dumb people that don't know a goddamn thing about football. And let us drill him about what he did and what he did wrong. And why the hell did you throw it to Jordy Nelson on third down? He's been retired for 18 years. You should have thrown it over to this guy. And just let us drill him about the position that he was in and the decisions he made. Do you think he's going to do that? No, I don't think he is. You know why? Because we're fucking morons. We don't know a goddamn thing about football. I haven't played football since I was in 8th grade. Why the fuck would I be the one asking him questions? I shouldn't be asking him questions. He knows better than me. And guess what? The scientists know better than you too, motherfucker. Leave them the fuck alone. You're not that smart. You're not a scientist. Let them do their job. That's what I had to say.
See, and I was going to say basically a lot of the same things that you said, right? Like science is that inquisitive questioning, but the thing that science isn't, you can't just decide what you want the science to be and say, well, if it's not this, then I don't agree.
Well, yeah,
you
that's
can
the
say
whole
that
thing.
you don't agree. Like you can say you don't agree. You have the right to do that. But just because you don't agree doesn't mean that you are right and that the science is wrong.
Exactly. It's not a belief thing. It's not a belief thing.
No, and it's so frustrating when people go, oh, well, what you told me has changed. Yes, that is the point of science. Because at one point in your life, if you were to get the chicken pox, you might have died. At one point in your life, if you blew out your ACL, you might have had to have your knee, sawed off because there was no way to fix your ACL. Like, science has evolved. That's what science does. Science evolves faster now because we have lots of people working on these things. Like, yes, you will be told different things at different times, and some of them will be accurate. Some of them will be motivated by capital Zeke Elliott interests. But, it is going to change. That's how this works.
Yeah, I think, and part of the thing that irritates me so much about all of this is that these, COVID deniers or vaccine deniers or whatever you want to call these specific individuals who tend to lean in the same direction that Aaron Rodgers and Joe Rogan and apparently Jared Goff and was it Jared Goff? No, Carson Wentz, right? Carson Wentz. I think Jared Goff is just bad at quarterback, but I don't think he's a vaccine guy. Anyway,
Carson Wentz, Sam Darnold,
the point
Cousins.
is, the point is that I don't remember where was I going with this now. Oh, so what they do is first of all, they'll deny the science, right? Science comes out and they'll say, no, that's not true. And the science will continue to test. They'll continue to test. They'll continue to test. They'll say, hey, wait, we came up with some new information. And they'll say, oh, sure. You said you knew the answer. Now you're changing it? Well, fuck you. Obviously, you don't know what you're talking about. And they'll pick and choose the pieces that they want to believe, right? It's insane. It's insane. And I agree with you, Gamer. If we're going to make this more of a general COVID conversation, the leadership on this is insane. It's stupid. Nobody has, first of all, nobody has answers. That's part of the problem, right? Like nobody has concrete answers. And I think there has to be some grace in that. I think one thing you don't do is you don't come on the news and say, hey, we're going to cut the isolation period in half because we need to get your fucking lousy asses back to work so I can get my coffee at Denny's tomorrow morning. Like, that's a bullshit thing to say. I don't care if you are, Mr. God Almighty COVID hero or whatever, right? Like, there's a lot of stupid things that have been happening, but you're right. There's a lot of mistakes that have been made. I think that as long as we're erring on the side of trying to keep people safe, I think that's probably a good thing. That's my personal opinion.
So are we transitioning to the COVID topic now?
Well, Gamer kind of brought it up. He made it the kind of the holistic, COVID thing.
So I wanted to talk about this anyway. So let's just talk about it. Let's just, throw the flag on there and talk about it. So you opened it up, right? So the CDC comes out over the holiday, right after Christmas. Got to time it.
Right.
But they're like, hey, you can come out of quarantine after 5 days now if you're asymptomatic. And you should wear a mask after that for 5 days, just in case. But you can come out. And, this is one of those things where there's so many pieces to this, right? They're doubling down on it and tripling down on it and saying lots of things. Like, one of the quotes that I saw today was something along the lines of, well, in the research that we've done, about 70% of people are okay and not able to transmit the virus after 5 days if they're asymptomatic. So, if we have 30% of people who can still transmit and they come out, that's okay. And there was another thing that I saw that was, there's just to me, Delta Airlines wrote a letter to the CDC that was like, your quarantine period is killing our business. And then the CDC's like, yeah, I think you're right.
And it's not just them, right? It's like all businesses are seeing this.
Now, the CDC comes out and goes, hey, we know we just got the quarantine period, but don't go on a cruise. It's too dangerous. You're going to tell me that it's too dangerous to go on a cruise, but I can go back to work in an enclosed space and have a 30% chance of being in there with somebody who is spreading virus to me. Because that's not dangerous?
Yeah, I think so. The optics of this are horrible, first of all, right? They know, everybody knows that shit's going to blow up in the next couple weeks. Shit is going to blow up because we know that this Omicron thing, it gets spread a whole lot easier than Delta or any of the other ones, right? It spreads a hell of a lot easier. Now, the symptoms tend to be on the lesser side, to the point that Gamer mentioned earlier, as some head of health or something in Chicago basically equated it to the flu-like symptoms. So it's kind of like a flu. It's generally, what we're seeing is that the symptoms aren't horrible, right? And that's great. That's good. If you're vaccinated, then the symptoms are terrible. But you can still give this to people, right? And so the idea is they know that shit's going to hit the fan because everybody was out for the holidays, right? You're out seeing people for Thanksgiving. You're out seeing people for Christmas. People are going nuts on New Year's. I just talked to somebody today who said they went to 3 different places on New Year's Eve partying. There's going to be a shit ton of people that are going to get sick. So getting out ahead of that, I understand that, right? I understand they're trying to try to curb that. But when you come out and your messaging is very clearly, we need to keep the economy running. We need to keep that money churning. We got to make sure that all these rich people keep getting paid. Let me just say this in the most delicate way I can. Go fuck yourself. We should be worrying about people being safe and being healthy. And that's not where they're going. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that the economy took a huge hit early in 2020. I understand that it's continued to take a hit. But the fact that we are by all intents and purposes, as far as we can tell, we're making a lot of these decisions not based on health and health information, but based on we need to these are economic decisions. That's a problem. I got a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about going back to work. Like I said, play the Zeke Elliott drop. Like, that's basically what all this is.
Well, and to your point, gamer, you know, if you're on a cruise ship and you get sick, you can't go anywhere. You can't really isolate. I mean, you kind of can in your room, right? But here's the thing. Like, I have it fairly good. I'll admit it. I'm working from home. Even if I get sick, you know, I take some sick time, but I'm still here. I'm fine. A lot of people can't do that, right? A lot of people can't stay home. There's a lot of people who are working with people, whether it's in the restaurant industry or the healthcare industry or whatever it is. They're around people all the time, and they can't not go into work. Like, there's stories about this constantly where people are like, you need to come in, you need to come in, you need to come in. Like, they're being forced into this position where they have to work. On top of that, now the CDC just crunched back that isolation period. So now people who are still sick, still showing symptoms, still probably contagious, are being told by their employers, hey, it's been 5 days. You need to get your ass back into work, period, end of story. And that's where a lot of this problem comes in. And I agree with Emily. I think there's a lot of that where smarter companies, more forward-thinking companies are saying, look, let's slow down a little bit because things are still going to get crazy. But I mean, when the CDC comes out and says, hey, these are our guidelines, this is what you can do, all of a sudden you're going to see companies that are going to start reversing on that because they're just going to say, oh, 5 days, that's it. I expect to see you on day 6.
100%. And like, the whole thing about this is it's about that money, and it's about the fact that, you know, you and I and other people who are trying generally to do the right things are being told that we need to trust the people who go into the bathroom, do a number 2, leave, don't wash their hands, to come back to work and wear a mask after 5 days. Like, no, you've proven time and time and time again that I'm not able to trust you with your hygiene. Yeah. So how am I supposed to trust you to not get me sick?
Yeah, it's an ugly situation, and I understand there's a lot of variables, right? Like, we're talking about keeping people healthy, we're talking about the vaccine, we're talking about the economy, we're talking about travel. You know, people are traveling for the holidays. Are people going to get stranded? We're talking about the political side of things. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to be weighed in on everything, and nobody's going to agree on everything. Nobody will. No one will agree on everything.
What we're doing here, and, you know, somebody made the comment, this is honestly the CDC, like, low key, but actually saying the quiet part out loud, pushing for herd immunity. Because this is the whole, like, well, we tried vaccination, but that didn't work. So now we're going to, like, try, especially with Omicron not being as severe, like, we're going to try to get to that herd immunity. And, like, that's
but people who had COVID still get COVID. It's not like chickenpox where you get it once and you're fine. Like, maybe it's a little bit harder, but you can still get it.
Yeah.
Right? And I agree with Gamer. Like, they should just say it's never going away, but no one's going to do that. No one's going to say that. Right. You know, and I guess that part of it too is that maybe part of it's because science keeps changing, but I don't think it's only the science changing, right? It's I think we can all see pretty clearly that the economic factors made a big push into why they shortened this isolation period. So the fact that they are weighing people's lives against the impact of billionaires, that's a fucking problem, right? And I think that's part of the reason why they're never going to have a well thought out plan, because the billionaires who own all these fucking politicians are going to, you know, shake their purse strings and change things up. So unfortunately, we're not going to have a huge, timeline of this is what we're going to do and this is what we need to do. But hopefully in the short term, somebody can get their shit figured out. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's a very frustrating situation. And, like, this is, you know, people ask the question, well, why are we talking so much about COVID? And it's like, well, think about it this way. When the flu came along in, you know, like 1918 or whatever, I'm sure they talked about the flu a lot then too. Like, this is something that's new and it's breaking, and, like, we're trying to figure it out. And is this something that's going to be with us for a long time? Probably, but we're trying to get out ahead of it as much as we can so that we can reduce as much damage as possible.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get out of COVID because I think all of us are done with COVID. Let's move on to everybody's favorite segment.
Random rankings.
B, what are we doing
Oh,
for
yeah.
the rankings this week?
For the rankings this week, we are just going to talk about a hodgepodge of stuff. I've titled this Random Sports Talk and Betting Degenerates. So, while Sconzi and I were taking our nice little break from podcasting, he had the idea to rank 15 quarterbacks who may be on the move this offseason, especially given our talk about old friend Aaron Rodgers. So we figured we would give that a try. So in a world where in the year of 2022, Aaron Rodgers leaves the Green Bay Packers either to join a new team or for retirement, the Packers have the opportunity to either stick with their draft pick of Jordan Love or try to select one of these wonderful quarterbacks that you are going to see on the screen here. Now, we haven't necessarily decided how we want to go about this, but we can just have a general discussion about all of these people on here. And I think it's kind of funny that you had mentioned kind of like the COVID deniers, because like half of this list is the COVID deniers.
So I'm gonna throw a little bit of a wrinkle into this. So the scenario is Aaron Rodgers is gone from Green Bay. He got traded, he retires, he leaves, whatever, right? I'm also gonna say that the Chicago Bears, in a shocking development, signed Russell Wilson. So now the Green Bay Packers have to choose, or we have to choose, between these quarterbacks here or Jordan Love, whatever the option may be. I had to take Russell Wilson off the board because he is clearly head and shoulders, obviously the number one pick outside of Aaron Rodgers. So I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting. So of these quarterbacks, grab a name, any name, and tell us why the Packers should or shouldn't be interested in him.
Here's my question before we do this. Is Devontae Adams still a Packer?
Ooh, I think we have to proceed with yes.
Okay, because that does impact some of my thinking here.
And maybe you can, comment on it both ways. But yeah, I think at this point we have to say yes. Especially because if Rodgers is gone, they probably have the money to sign him, right? Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Because honestly, like that to me rules out immediately Matt Ryan. Because Matt Ryan is just like, no, you don't throw to your best wide receiver anyway. Like, come on, Matt Ryan. Like, no, Matt Ryan is a no. Like, I would rather have a statue than Matt Ryan. Where is my, like, cross out? How can I cross out Matt Ryan? I don't know, but I'm going to try to figure it out.
I don't know where the font's at.
So Matt Ryan to me is a no.
Okay, I can get behind that. I like Matt Ryan, but I don't know that he's old and like he had 2 or 3 years where he was pretty decent, but yeah, like, no, I think that's a no.
My podcasts call him Matty Melt because he will take like the check downiest of the check downs, and he will always like he is kind of like Bizarro land Aaron Rodgers, where he'll always try to throw to the open guy, even if the open guy is the worst receiver on the team, instead of like throwing to his, $90 million receiver in the end zone. He's going to throw the ball to like Christian Blake.
Okay, so we're just going to move him down here to the we don't want him list.
Correct.
There's like 7 guys that I want to move down to that list, but I have to figure out which one to go with first.
All right.
Oh God, like I'm gonna move Cam Newton down there first.
Okay.
Because he's old. He's old. He can't really.
Like 30, isn't he?
Yeah, but he looks old. He plays old, and he used to be able to throw a little bit. Now he can't really throw that well. He runs okay, but with the offense that LaFleur has, Cam Newton ain't gonna do nothing for us.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So now I'm kind of torn here, and I know I pick one of these people, you're going to disagree with me. So,
I would say let's do it this way. Let's pick, because we could go through this whole list and it'll take us half an hour. Pick
Right.
like 2 or 3 people, or however many you think is a decent number, that are guys that we should consider. Maybe put like an X in front of their name or something. Who should we consider?
Guys to consider. Tua. I would consider Tua, I would say.
I gotta find my garbage bucket because I think I'm gonna puke.
Are you putting one in front of Kirk?
Ian, no, I'm letting you pick a couple first.
Because I was gonna go with Kirk.
Now I'm gonna puke in my mouth. I'm gonna puke all over the camera now.
So here's the thing with Kirk. Kirk knows how to get the ball to his best receiver, at least. We know he knows how to do that. Now, here's how bad this list is. I'm going to tell you how bad this list is. Because if I can't have Tua and I can't have Kirk, I'm going with Nick Foles. Because I'm driving the tank. We're going 2-12 or whatever that math is, and we're getting a good draft pick.
All right, so I've been looking at this list, B.
Although maybe I should rescind Nick Foles because he actually kind of wins. I really should have picked like Teddy Bridgewater.
I'm looking at this list, and so I want to go ahead and cover some of the stuff we got in the list here. Gamer thinks Matt Ryan would be a nice short-term pick for 2 or 3 years till they find someone better. I don't hate that. I don't disagree necessarily. Old Man Wiggum says Carr and Tua are the only 2 on the list he'd even be interested in. Gamer says Teddy Bridgewater's done okay in a run-heavy system, so he maybe could fit. I get that. Gamer also says Tua is legit terrible. I have a problem with that comment because Gamer and I disagree on absolutely everything except Tua, apparently. But as I'm looking at this list, there's only one name on here, B. Like, you know that I don't like Jordan Love. I don't think he's a long-term good quarterback. But there's legit only one person on this list that I would want us to have over Jordan Love. And my thought is that I don't think Jordan Love will be a good quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he'll be a great. I mean, he might be okay-ish. But a lot of these guys, they're older guys, right? Like most of them are. Most of them, you already know that they're not a good quarterback. Like, I may think that Jordan Love's not going to be a good quarterback, but he could still be a good quarterback, right? So at least you got an opportunity. Like Tua, you already know he's not a good quarterback. Like Winston, you know he's not a good quarterback. At least Jordan Love could maybe possibly. It might be against all odds, but he could. The only one on here, in my mind, that is a quarterback that has really any redeemable features. Okay, Kirk Cousins kind of does. It makes me sick to say that. But for me, it all comes down to Derek Carr. That would be my guy.
Yeah, he's fine. Like he's another one of those dudes. Like he's got the Ben Roethlisberger gene, where it's 3rd and 8, and he's gonna throw a 3-yard pass to the halfback.
Maybe, but how much of that is coaching too? You know, I mean, it may not just all be him. But I think him and Kirk Cousins are the only ones that maybe are even in the conversation. Kirk Cousins just is not a winner in my mind. Like he kind of does okay. His numbers look okay, but he's just not a winner. I think Derek Carr could be a winner. But he's also, I don't think he's necessarily a long-term solution. But you know what? Maybe he comes in, maybe he plays for 4 or 5 years, and then, you know, you decide somewhere in that 4 or 5 years, maybe Jordan Love takes over. Who knows? But yeah, in my mind, he's the only one that's worth considering on this list.
Yeah, this list is terrible, and it makes me sad because when Aaron Rodgers leaves, we're gonna not be very good.
You want to know what's even more sad than that, honestly? Like, as a Packer fan, the most sad part is if Aaron Rodgers leaves, we're in trouble. But the sad part for the NFL is that probably half of these guys are going to get a whole bunch of millions of dollars. And some team's going to be like, hell yes, we got Jimmy Garoppolo. And another team's going to be like, woohoo, we got Jared Goff. And it's going to be like, oh, no, don't be excited about that.
Sam Darnold. So we're just gonna go full COVID. But one of my favorite tweets in the last offseason, when Sam Darnold was making some weird commentaries about COVID, somebody retweeted it and said, I've seen Sam Darnold throw into like triple coverage way too many times to know that decision making is not Sam Darnold's strong suit.
So Old Man Wiggum, I think, is closing us out on this one. In the real world, Rodgers will be back or he'll retire. If he retires, Love will be the quarterback, and I'm okay with that to see what he does. I don't know necessarily that he will be either back or retire. I think there's an option where he could be traded, potentially. But I think it's more likely he'll be back or retire. I think the trade part is a very, very small percentage. And you know what? If I agree with you, Jordan Love would probably be the guy. I think they would look to sign somebody like a Nick Foles, somebody who's used to kind of being a backup who can step in and do something, but someone who's okay with being a backup. I don't think you sign Jimmy Garoppolo or Jameis Winston. Maybe Winston, but like Garoppolo.
Winston
I don't know that you'd pick someone like him and put him in as a backup because he's just going to be disgruntled, right? So I think someone like
Tyrod would be a good backup too.
Tyrod would work. Nick, someone who's had that. And Gamer, you're right. Like, we didn't even mention Deshaun Watson. Like, he's a dick. He's a horrible human being. Like, we wouldn't want him. Right. Can Matt Flynn still play? I mean, I'm okay with it. Can I just point out, did anybody see the tweet from Matt Flynn?
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
like Matt Flynn commented on something on Twitter and somebody responded and goes, yeah, do you remember when Seattle paid you all that money? And his response, and I'm paraphrasing here, was like, yeah, that was pretty great, wasn't it?
No, so I saw a tweet. There was a different tweet from Matt Flynn where this was like when the entire Packers quarterback room was under COVID, and he tweets out and he's like, my brain. He's like, I could go out there for one more ride. He's like, my body. And then he posted the picture of Ben Roethlisberger where Roethlisberger had like big old ice packs on his knees, like ice pack on his shoulder.
Yeah, the one I saw was hilarious because clearly the guy was just trying to goad him and saying, you were trash and you got all this money and you were trash. And he's looking at it like, dude, I got all that money. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, right. Hello? All right. Do we want to run through these guys, B? We're just over an hour. We can make this really quick if you want.
I was just going to say, I put these props in here to see if we've been doing a little dabbling on the Kings. So, do we like any of these hard props, or are we really saying coach of the year? It's basically LaFleur or the Bengals, Zach Taylor. Mike Vrabel's in the conversation. It seems like everybody else is out. Do you have any disagreement with any of those?
Nope. I think it absolutely has to be one of those two. When do they pick these? Do they pick these after the playoffs?
Yeah, I think these are sometime after the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on. I'd say the same thing for this, and you also had MVP down here. I think I'm going to have a very similar take. I think if the Packers make the Super Bowl, even if they lose, if they make the Super Bowl, I think LaFleur wins Coach of the Year.
Okay.
I think pretty much anything else, unless the Bengals really get embarrassed in the playoffs, I think Zach Taylor's probably the pick.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a lot of people who are pounding the table for Vrabel with no Derrick Henry. But...
Yeah, I can get that, but it's just I don't think that's going to happen. They are the number one seed right now, so maybe, but I think it's these guys.
Fair enough. So that is your random rankings for this week. We'll save those Super Bowl props for the playoffs probably because we typically do a playoff primer. So
yeah, I think we'll have to. That's probably next week, right? Because playoffs start that week, next week. All right, so next week, random rankings, we'll probably do our playoff picks. So make sure you're here if you want to join along.
That's true.
Old Man Wiggum likes LaFleur, but when your quarterback is Rodgers, you are not the coach of the year. Well, I think you could be, but that's why I say they have to make the Super Bowl. If they don't do that, he's not getting that. It's time for. Oh, you got something, or are you going to do your extra point?
I was going to say, do we want to flip it up? Do you want to hit us with your extra point first this year?
Hell no. You're the guy. Get it done. Show us what's up.
I mean, as Sconzi lets you all know, I enjoyed a nice long winter break, and it was good. But it's also good to be back. It's good to be back in front of you all. I know we made some promises in 2021 about being more positive and bringing you more stories, and we're working hard. We're doing the best that we can. And I just want to remind you that in 2020,
2022,
That was not
2022, 22.
that was not me doing the Max Headroom. That was my brain going kaboom. But in the year of 2022, make sure that you're doing your best. I didn't really come prepared with an extra point today. I'm here to, get you hype, make sure that Sconzi squares a lot, and I did my job. So, check for today.
Make sure I swear. I did swear too, a lot more than I had expected, I think. Maybe less than I expected. Maybe I did a good job. I don't know.
I think you did a good job.
Now you made me think that I need to do a different extra point than what I was going to do. I think this is a good one to start off the year. And I'll save the other one maybe for next week. I think to your point, B, it's, a lot of people look at New Year's and we do resolutions, right? Like, I resolved to do this. I'm going to go to the gym. What else do people do? The gym is a big one, right? Maybe
Gym,
eat different.
Lose weight, stop smoking, stop drinking.
Like the stuff that nobody's going to do anyway. I'm a firm believer in goals. I'm a firm believer in putting together a plan to achieve your goals. Whether you call those resolutions or whatever, that's fine. But I also think that at some point you have to start, right? And a lot of times having a catalyst, whatever that catalyst is, having that I'm starting is important. And I think that the New Year's is as good a time as any to use as an arbitrary starting point. So whatever anybody's wishes or goals or dreams or resolutions are, I hope that you're able to chase those down and make tangible progress on those. I have my own. During the break, I was able to put a lot of time and effort and thought into what I want to do personally, professionally, and then the stream stuff. I don't know. That's kind of personal. It's not professional, but it's kind of whatever. It's my personal life, my professional work life, and then it's my stream life. And so I put a lot of thought into a lot of that. And, the time that we took off, was remarkable. I enjoyed it, but I also, every night I got on here and maybe played some games with Joe and Z-Dubs. And I thought, God, maybe I should just hit that go live button and just stream some stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is, for me, things may shake up some this year. I may take some more time off here and there. Streams maybe could get a little bit more random. I'm going to try not to, because I know it's easier for all of you who want to come hang out if it's more consistent. Work stuff might shake out. Personal life might shake out. I got a bunch of different goals. I talked about a lot of those in our extra time. No, our extra time out. That's what it is. Time out, which is kind of our little extra podcast thing that we do, audio only, that we send out to our patrons. Old Man Wiggum will probably put that link in the chat here in a second. For our Patreon subscribers. So we give them a little bit of a extra podcast stuff and extra stream stuff. And I talked about some of my goals into there as well, which maybe we'll get into over time. But again, whatever it is that all of you are striving for and working towards, and even if you're not working towards anything, that's fine too. Even if it's just, I want to be in a better head space or a better health space, whatever the case may be. I hope that you're able to achieve that. And I think that together as a group, as a community, as a bunch of people hanging out at night and playing games, watching games, doing stuff, I think we can support one another at what we're chasing. And I hope that you'll share with me what you're working on. I'll certainly share with all of you what I'm working on as well. And hopefully together we can see some very, very positive changes in 2022. That's what I got, B. Why don't you close us out?
All right, so in the year of 2022, we are here on YouTube on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. You can find Sconzi on Amazon Sidewalk. You can find me on Twitter, LandmarkMKE. You can find Sconzi on Twitter at Sconzi. As always, we appreciate you being here. You can check out Sconzi's content on the YouTube. I'm sure Apex will soon be plastered above my head. But until then, we want to welcome you all back. Thank you all for listening, watching, and supporting the podcast. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you again soon. Any further words for the people? Mr. Sconzi over there?
Nope, I got nothing. See everybody. Thanks for being here.
Have a great evening. Take care. We appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.